Well, what has happened is that after 40 years of having a very comfortable security blanket, which we've called AMPS, the last tranche of that information has been published. And for a lot of people, this is a source of concern. But if you actually sit back and evaluate what has happened, I believe it's really good news for marketers, for media owners, and for agencies as well. AMPS has been a really unique tool and something which we quite rightly have been very proud of in South Africa. But slowly but surely, it's been losing traction in terms of its ability to predict market behavior and consumer behavior. So, markets evolve over time, but consumers just change. Now, if I can give you an example of a household of 10 people, in which household 2 people have a smartphone. If a third person in that household gets a smartphone, then things change. Firstly, AMPS would report that the incidence of smartphones in that household has increased by 1/3. It would also report that the incidence of smartphones in that household was now at 30%. And because 3 or more smartphones in a household is an AMPS indicator for LSM or Living Standards Measure status, that household would track up the LSM spectrum. Now that's kind of interesting, but the real issue today is that for the person who didn't have a smartphone yesterday but has one today, their life has changed irrevocably, and their relationship with marketers will never ever be the same. We need to know what's happening to the one person in that household, not the household itself. So in simple terms, what AMPS has progressively been doing is asking people to recall what they did yesterday so that we can explain what they're doing today. We need a quantum shift in the way media research works. We need to track and measure what people are doing today, real time preferably, so that we can predict just what it is that they're going to be doing tomorrow. Well, the big difference is when you have all your information in one source, which has been AMPS, you can go to one place and you can tunnel around in there, but it tends to give very, very predictable answers. Now, a lot of that information is going to disappear. In March of next year, AMPS will be replaced by something called the Establishment Survey. AMPS was the fully functioning human body. Establishment Survey will be the skeleton. So a lot of the information that you have found in a one-stop shop in AMPS will appear to have disappeared, except that it won't have disappeared. It will now be available in a whole bunch of satellite databases, which will bolt onto the Establishment Survey. So I think that's the first thing. We're going to have to get used to looking in a multiplicity of places for answers, not one place. And the good news is, though, that when you're looking in lots of places, you're going to get more interesting and different answers. AMPS tended to give always the same answer, and that to a large degree also because many, many marketers have been completely reliant on LSMs, which, as I say, is a measure of the degree to which a market evolves over time, rather than a measure of the degree of change in individual consumers. Real opportunity in brands. Well, the first challenge, let's deal with the challenge first. The first challenge is that branded information which has been available in AMPS will not be in the Establishment Survey. So something which many marketers have taken for granted, and that would include retail behavior patterns, retail shopping patterns, all sorts of things, will not be available. That means the marketers are going to have to fast track the process which they have begun and produce their own branded study. Now that branded study would be bolted onto the Establishment Survey, whereas currently the branded information sits inside of AMPS. So first thing is they're going to have to recreate the branded information that they have taken for granted in AMPS. But the good news is that they will control the study itself, which means they can tunnel in and create a set of really information-rich questions about the brand. So the brand definitions and the brand metrics haven't changed in AMPS for many, many years. This is a chance to change things. I went to the final presentation of AMPS last week, and I was astounded to discover that I'd mistakenly entered into some sort of wake. It really looked perilously glum, and then I just don't understand why people have been so sad about this thing. This is an opportunity to create something new and to create something exciting. So anybody who fears change should fear the demise of AMPS. Anybody who came into the ad industry because they embrace change and they like change, it's good news.